Welcome to the channel, Colombian Coffee Adventures. These are my adventures and maybe a few friends that will go along with me. Let me tell you about me and coffee. First of all, I am not a professional. I love coffee. I didn't start drinking coffee until I was probably in my 30s. And even today, I drink 1 cup in the morning, maybe 5 days a week. That's it. But when I drink it, I want to enjoy it. I'm not a coffee snob. If you like it, drink it. Drink it how you like it. I don't care. I'm not one of those people that's going to look down on you because you like a dessert coffee. I don't. My favorite way is a really good coffee with skim milk, foamed, and a bit of chocolate. The chocolate takes away the bitterness. I love that. I don't need to add sugar because the milk adds a little bit of sweetness, a little takes the edge off of it. A coffee snob might look at that and say, well, how you don't know coffee? Well, I know coffee. I can taste the difference of a good coffee and a bad coffee. I've always hated black coffee. Until somewhat recently, we're trying out all these different coffees in Quindio. There's some black coffees that are actually really tasty. So anyway, let's get back to the topic. This is about Quindio coffee. Let me tell you about Quindio. Quindio is a department in Colombia. A department is like a state, and Quindio is a very small one. If it were in the U.S., it'd be Rhode Island or Connecticut. Colombia is known for coffee, of course. However, what you may not know is that Quindio, as small as it is, in the Andes Mountains, is at the perfect elevation. It has the perfect humidity, and all the farms here they're not commercial farms like you find in other areas of Colombia. They're very small farms. They might be 5 or 10, 15 acres. And these farms are owned generationally, family, next generation, next generation. And the interesting thing about the farmers here, it's their passion, it's their life. It's all they've ever known. It's all they ever want to know. They love growing coffee. They experiment with it. They play with it. They do what they can to make the very best coffees. In my opinion, Quindio overall has the finest coffees not only in Colombia, but in the world. If you look up every year they have the international taste tests, and they're blind submissions, so they don't know if it comes from Africa or Hawaii or Colombia. And there's thousands of submissions. Quindio is always in the top 10, and their best showing was 5 out of the top 10. Judges didn't know, had no clue where it was coming from. But when they talk about chefs cooking with love, and we kind of roll our eyes and go, yeah, okay, I get it, it's just something to say. Well, these farmers cook with love. It's something all important to them, and it's something they want to hand down to their children. It's not just something they do. So here I am in the middle of the best coffee in the world. Coffee that you can't get unless you come here. They'll bag it up, they'll sell it locally, and then whatever they have left over, they sell off in bulk to these commercial operations. And they make peanuts. They make pennies on the dollar. They certainly don't get a return on the type of labor they put into it. They're hand-picked. Everything is done by hand in their operations. And it's small batches. If they have a great yield at harvest time of a particular coffee, that won't last all year. And when it's gone, it's gone. And you got to wait till next year for that great coffee to come around again. The nice thing is there's a lot of those little farms here, and so you just kind of change it up. And the flavors they're out of this world. And every type of coffee you can think of, whether they're all Arabica, but whether it's bourbon or you name it, it's here. There's washed process, there's natural process where they actually leave it all together and let it ferment. I had one this morning that was fermented 120 days, and it's about as unique as it gets. I like it. It's not my favorite, but it's up there because it's so interesting. It's got kind of like a vinegar tang to it. It's not vinegar. I don't know the coffee lingo. But it's got that. It's got some acidity to it, very little bitterness, and it's got real flavors to it. When they sit around all pompous and say, oh, I get a hint of chocolate and a touch of caramel, and ooh, there's some red fruits. Okay, all right. Just as I'm mocking it now, I've always mocked it. However, in trying these different coffees, and I'll have them do a pour over and try it black so that there's nothing in the way. When I do that, I'm getting hints of chocolate. I had a little caramel the other day. Are you kidding me? Now, Again, don't get me wrong. If you got a scale of 1 to 10, 10's an expert and 1 is an idiot when it comes to coffee. On my best day, I might be a 5, maybe a 4, maybe a 3. I don't know. I have poured myself into it over the last few years, enough to want to do this channel. I'm passionate about doing this channel, making these videos. I want to show you all the different ways of delivering coffee here in Quindio, and go to the farms and visit those farms and talk to the farmers so that you can see what goes on here, because it is unique and it's awesome. We're going to look at coffees from the street vendors to the fanciest cafes, wherever it is. And the thing is, I know this is going to sound weird, since I've been here in Quindio, Colombia, I've never had a bad cup of coffee. I've never had a cup of coffee where I go, oh, I'm not going to drink that. It's some amazing stuff. And there will be an announcement somewhere probably towards the end of April that if you have interest in this, you're going to want to hear it. And I can't tell you now because there's legalese involved, whatever. But stay tuned. In the meantime, we're going to play with the format a little bit just to see, what kind of hits, what you're interested in. Please send me emails and put comments on there so that you can guide and direct us with this. But here's the idea ultimately. I want to have a video once a week of approximately half an hour, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And one part of it will be certain aspects of a coffee farm. Another part of it will be going to one of the local cafes and evaluating it and evaluating their coffee. A lot of the cafes are actually outlets for their farm. And so, some aren't, many are. And so we'll go and we can evaluate in a cafe setting. And so if you're ever going to come to Quindio, Colombia, the number 2 tourist spot in all of Colombia, I mean, there's so much here. If you're ever going to, maybe you'll have a good idea what cafes you might want to visit. There's pretty damn amazing cafes here. And so there'll be that part. And then the last part will be my ugly mug. Now, for the cafe part, I'm going to see if I can get some pretty girl or girls, nice to look at, that can do the coffee. I don't want to be on the camera. But in the last part, I'm guessing it may be the last part, will be me explaining a particular aspect about choosing or making coffee. And again, I'm not an expert, but through the course of my learning here over the last handful of years, there's certain things that I was doing wrong. For example, operating a French press. Okay, I'll let the cat out of the bag on this one. You may or may not agree, but I'm going to tell you, it made a world of difference for me. And I make coffee different ways, mocha pots, and French press. I got a espresso machine, a cheap one. French press. Okay, so you measure out your coffee, you put it in there. It has to be a certain grind. We'll get to that later. Different grinds for different types of coffee. So it has to be a certain grind. And then you pour the hot water in. You want to heat it up first, maybe. But here's the point. Here's the tip. So you got that plunger. It's up at the top, and that coffee is just kind of steeping away for 3 or 4 minutes or whatever it works out to be. Now you're ready to drink it. What does everybody do? They push that plunger down because it's called a press, right? When you pour the coffee out, it's muddy. Tastes good, it's muddy. And it's got kind of a heavy body. In other words, it's kind of thick with sediments. If you want that coffee to really taste like the coffee and not like the process that you just did, don't ever push the plunger down. Leave that plunger up, right up at the top. And you can use that screen as you pour it out. And lo and behold, you're going to get a coffee coming out of there that looks like rather clear coffee. And when you taste it, you're not going to be tasting the dregs, you're going to be tasting the nature of the coffee itself. So it'll be things like that. Now, maybe you knew that, won't help you. But on every video once a week, I want to throw a tip out there, and maybe it'll be something you didn't know. So that's the plan for this channel. It will be, for me, a commercial operation. At some point, we're going to have t-shirts and mugs. We're going to invite you down to go with us to coffee farms. There's going to be a whole thing around it. There will be a membership plan where you will get certain perks, some sent to you. We'll go into all that later, but this should be a fun adventure for all of us, and I look forward to you joining me with this. Now, get to work in those comments and subscription and all of that. Just for to clarify, YouTube will not monetize me because of another channel. Inadvertent, doesn't matter, you can't correct it. So this will never be monetized. The only monetization will ultimately come from you. However, I got a lot of passion, so that's going to get this thing going to where hopefully you think it's worthwhile. And that's all I got now. That's my introduction. Look forward to some videos. They're going to be few and far between over the next few weeks, but ultimately there'll be one at least once a week, and then we'll start filling in with possibly others. Another idea is maybe one or two local people on another day having a part of this video channel where they'll come on and they'll have a feature, say every Tuesday at 3 o'clock kind of thing. All right, that's it. Remember to join me in all those things I put you to task on. Ciao.
Wow.